What we are going to do today is scaffold the habits view. It won't have much functionality just yet, it's just going to be a representation of what the final product will be. Start a vdev server if you haven't done so already. And let's start with the entire page wrapper. Make it flex call, and give it a gray background. 200 is fine. I'll just type some text in here so I can better see what's happening. Looks like we are not extending to the full width of the page, so let's open the layout file and remove these classes from here. Now, in order to extend to the full height of the page, let's add a min h screen. Let's align the content in the center with justify center. Okay, let's now create the container for our habits. Starting with a div, make this flex call, and white background. Give it a padding of 10 at the top and 8 at the bottom. I'll let it extend to the edges like this for very small screens, but I'll limit the width for anything small and up. So SM max WLG. Now let's give it a minimum width with SM min width, and I already have a specific size in mind, so let's use 490 pixels. Align it to the center with MX Auto. Okay, let's try this out. Make the size smaller. Oh, I see. We need to make this MX Auto work only for SM and up. Like this. Okay, that's better. Let's add some padding on the sides. When extending to the edges, let's give it a padding of 6. And when centered, let's give it a little more padding. I think 8 should be okay. Add a shadow with Shadow XL. And to separate it from the background a little more, add a gray ring around it with ring 1 and ring gray 900 at 50% opacity. It's barely visible, but it makes the card stand out a bit more. Moving on to the header, start with a div, flex, item center, justify between. Then an H1, text XL, font semi-bold, and then use habit tracker for the text. Before moving on, I want to create a custom color I will use as the primary color for the UI. Open tailwind.config.js and add these lines in the extend section. Now back in the habits view, add a button below the H1, text white, BG primary 600. Use new habit for the text. Make it round and give it some padding. And now that I mention it, let's make this card rounded as well, but only when not extending to the edges, like this. Now let's create a list of habits, starting with a div. Add divide Y to separate each item with a horizontal line, and let's make this grade 300 with 50% opacity. For the row container, use a div with text base leading 7 and text gray 900. For the habit, use a div, flex, item center, and padding 2.5, top and bottom. Let's add a container for the habit information, make it flex, base is 1/2, and flex call. For the habit name, use an H1, text base, font semi-bold. Let's create a dummy record, say drink water, for example. For the executions, use a small tag, font normal, gray 400. And let's say we have completed this habit 1 out of 3 times. At this point, I would like to change the font since I don't really like the default one. I have already selected a font from Google Fonts called Montserrat. You can find the import line in the comments section. Copy that line and paste it inside Resources, CSS, app.css, just before all the tailwind imports. Now open tailwind.config.css and change the default sans font using the font family config option, like this. For the action button, add another div, flex, basis 1/4, justify center, and padding 2.5 all around. Now add a button, BG primary 600, text white, font semi-bold, text 2XL, padding X 4, padding Y 2, and rounded LG. And for the text, just use +1. I'm going to end up putting the progress bar into a view component, but for now I'll just use alpinejs to render some of its parts. Let's install alpinejs first using npm. Open resources.js, app.js, and add these lines to import and initialize alpinejs. Back to the habits view, add another div, basis 1/4, flex, justify center. Since this progress bar will be at 30%, let's put that inside the X data, like this. Now add another div, relative, inline flex, item center, justify center, overflow hidden. For the percentage label, add a div, flex absolute, inset 0, item center, justify center, text SM, font semi-bold. I'll use x-text with backticks to display the percentage value, like this. We can't see the text at the moment because the container is a bit small, but just to prove that it's there, I can just remove the overflow hidden class from the parent. And as you can see, the percentage is there. It will become visible once we add the progress bar in just a second. Add an SVG for the progress bar, give it a width and height of 20, and then rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise using transform minus rotate 90. For the actual progress line, we will use 2 circles, one for the foreground and one for the gray outline. Let's start with the gray outline. Add a circle, make it gray with text gray 300, stroke width 6, stroke current color, fill transparent, radius 30, CX 40, CY 40. Now I'll duplicate this circle and then add a few more things to it. First, I'll add something called stroke-array. This basically turns the stroke of the circle into a dashed line. The higher the number, the less number of dashes in the line. What I want is a single dash that is exactly the length of the circumference of the circle. So let's go up here and create a circumference variable. This is equal to the radius, which is 30, times 2 times math.pi. Now let's plug that into the stroke-array property like this. Next, I'll add stroke-offset, which defines a gap between each dash. The lower the number, the smaller the gap. This is what gives the illusion of a progress bar. The lower the gap, the higher the percentage. I already have the formula to get the exact percentage. Just take the circumference and subtract the percentage value divided by 100 multiplied by the circumference. And that should give you exactly 30%. And to give the line rounded caps, use stroke, line cap, round. Okay, the UI is looking pretty good so far. In the next video, we will split this into multiple view components and create our Pinea store. See you in the next one.